A lot of people used to look at me and think, oh wow, you seem like you're this really stable person, and I feel like they'd assume that I was living this super fulfilling life because I guess universally people would see what I have and think that I was super successful. I had a well-paying job, a big apartment over the city, a girlfriend, a dog, like people who loved me. I had everything anyone could ever ask for, and yet I don't know, I just felt super unhappy with myself. And every time I tried opening up to someone about how I felt, one of two things would happen. They would either completely invalidate my own emotions by saying things like, oh, but you have a girlfriend or you have a bunch of money, and then they'd start comparing my situation to theirs as if I had no reason to be upset. Or they would give me super generic advice, like how do I answer the interpersonal questions of who I am and what I want out of universal concepts. I wasn't really sure, but I knew somewhere deep down that I was the only one who could find an answer for myself, and it wasn't until around a month ago where I did. So like I said before, and by the way, like everything I'm about to tell you, although it may sound a bit absurd, these are real life events that have actually happened. So yeah, I had a really well-paying job. But being there was actually some of the most miserable times of my life. Because I was always traveling, I was barely able to see my girlfriend or take care of my dog or do anything I personally wanted to pursue. I gave up a lot on my, of my hobbies in order to sustain this job. Well, yes, traveling the world sounds wonderful to anyone else. To me, it created an agonizing longing to be with my loved ones again. And when I was able to come home, I'd look around and all I'd see was nothing but a room full of broken dreams. So the moment my boss fired me for sticking my hand in his mouth, I was kind of relieved. I mean, yes, now we lost our only income and I probably should have felt way more upset, but I wasn't. And I didn't know why yet. Of course, my girlfriend, upon hearing this news, was very troubled and upset with me, so nonetheless, I had to walk home in my own shame. Me and my girlfriend at the time were in a bit of a rough patch because I was barely able to see her and the dog. I had made a promise to go shopping with her to get the dog a new tennis ball since his was overchewed and dirty, but I never could. She'd naturally be very upset with me for being there as little as I was. When I got home, I was expecting to get a handful from her, the whole "you can do better" talk. I loved her nonetheless, and hey, maybe I deserved it. But when I looked down, I noticed a different pair of shoes, a pair of a men's size 14 Reebok Club C vintage revenge sneakers. I thought maybe my girlfriend's dad or brother came over. She was always a very reserved type of girl who was very close with her family, so it wouldn't be out of the norm. But that's when I realized the dog's food was out in the open, and it looked like the bowl was, refilled very recently. Consider how scattered the placement of the food in the bowl was. I thought nobody was supposed to be home. My girlfriend told me that she had an interview that day, so it couldn't be her. That's when I heard an unfamiliar laugh of a man down the hallway and what sounded like a squeaking bed. I quickly kicked off my shoes and ran down the hallway, praying on everything that this isn't what I thought it was. But it was. My dog was cheating on me with another owner, jumping around on my own bed with a brand new tennis ball he had gotten from him. I looked there, stunned, betrayed, and in disbelief, I ran out the door. I passed by my girlfriend as I ran out the main lobby. I wanted to warn her of what I just saw, but she seemed to be in a good mood, waving to me, probably wanting to talk about her interview. I didn't want to ruin that for her, especially considering she was already upset with me earlier, so in a panic, I just ran. Now, in the damp, gray streets of Manhattan, my mind was slowly starting to catch up with my body. The fact that within only in a couple of hours, I had lost nearly everything. While trying to process this, I felt as though I should have been more upset. But even after finding my dog with another owner, I didn't even shed a single tear over it. Yes, I felt betrayed and hurt, but looking back, I realized I didn't even know my own dog's name. Because I was traveling so much, I barely even had the time to build a real connection with my dog. It was mainly my girlfriend who was with the dog, which is why I was more hesitant to tell her about what I just saw. But for me personally, I realized that the dog brought me more unhappiness, as it was a constant reminder of the things I couldn't have in my life. In the middle of all these compiled thoughts, the slight drizzle outside turned into a harsh thunderstorm within a matter of minutes. I didn't bring my umbrella with me. In fact, the only thing I was wearing was a Kaisamto 3D chicken ramen noodle hoodie I got as a gift for me and my girlfriend's 8th anniversary. I found myself trying to run into a random store to avoid getting wet, and lo and behold, there was a 200 Tobacco Smoke City across the street. I ran in and saw the rainbow collections of vape pens on the counter. The person up front, who greeted me with a smile as bright as the sun, began to talk to me. It was a casual conversation, the typical weather talk, and then to how my day was. And as I started to open up more and more about what I've been through, he seemed to grow fondly of me. I kind of forgot the specific details of how it was all brought up, but he essentially offered to give me a free pen out of mere compassion. I had never smoked my entire life. In fact, I always avoided smoking, but being already at the lowest point of my life, I ended up deciding to just give it a go. He handed me what looked like a Rick and Morty vape pen. It was the kind of pen you'd probably see in a Chinatown thrift shop, but I took it anyway. I put it in my mouth and took a hit. The mix of propylene glycol and the nicotine hit my throat, and for a moment I thought that this was probably one of the dumbest things I could have possibly been doing to myself. But the moment I opened my mouth, the pickle-scented vapors came with a wave of exhilaratingly insane thrill. There was just this big dopamine rush that hit every fiber in my brain. And for the first time in a long time, I felt myself just uncontrollably smiling. I felt like myself again. I had a flash. I remembered a moment in my childhood just like this. A little me in a big world, only concerned about the modest of things like where I lost my favorite unpheasant Pokemon card or if my vote ever mattered. I had nothing to be concerned about, like who I was or what I wanted out of life, because I was happy. Now, a grown me, looking down at my Rick and Morty Chinatown vape pen, put 2 and 2 together. The reason why I felt the way I did was because I never truly pursued the things in my life that made me happy or what I thought would bring me happiness. From there, my life made a complete 180. As a kid, I always wanted to be an ASMR ambient sound YouTuber, and I never really got the chance to pursue that up until recently. Now, garnering over a gazillion subscribers and still continuing to grow, I had achieved my childhood dream and I'm making a living. And this was all thanks to that magical day. The day that smoking saved my life.